Imagine the only thing standing between you and your first million isn't money, connections, or luck, but a single thought you haven't had yet. Right now, somewhere in America, someone with your exact same education, your exact same bank account, even your exact same job title, is about to make a decision that puts them on a completely different financial path than you. 5 years from now, one of you will be telling a story about the year everything changed. The other will still be waiting for things to change. And the wild part? Right now, today, you can't tell which one of you that will be. Not because one of you is smarter, not because one of you got a lucky break, because of how they think, starting with thoughts they haven't even had yet. That's exactly what today's book is going to change. Welcome to Daily Audio Insights. I'm your host, and today we're diving into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Here's why this book matters right now in 2026. With inflation squeezing paychecks, side hustles becoming the norm, AI reshaping entire industries, and more people than ever feeling like the rules of get a stable job and you're set simply don't apply anymore, Americans need a mindset upgrade, not another budgeting app, not another 5-step productivity hack, an actual shift in how you see opportunity, risk, and yourself. And that's precisely what this book delivers. Here's something wild. This book has sold over 100 million copies worldwide. It's been quietly read by entrepreneurs, professional athletes, salespeople, and even Fortune 500 executives, many of whom credit it not for giving them a secret formula, but for completely rewiring how they approached money, failure, and ambition. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years studying the most successful people of his era, looking for common threads. What he found wasn't about connections or inheritance. It was about a handful of internal shifts that are just as relevant on a Tuesday morning in 2026 as they were a century ago. Let's get into it. Lesson 1. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. Here's the core idea, and I want you to really sit with this one. Your subconscious mind treats a vividly imagined goal almost the same way it treats reality. When you constantly visualize success with real emotion, real detail, real feeling behind it, your brain starts quietly scanning for ways to make that vision true. It's not magic. It's not manifesting in some mystical sense. It's focus, dialed up to an extreme degree. Think about Sarah, a marketing manager in Austin, Texas. For years, she had this vague little dream tucked away. Someday, I'll start my own agency. That's it. That's the whole plan. Someday. She'd think about it occasionally, usually while stuck in traffic on I-35, and then life would happen. Meetings, emails, dinner, sleep, repeat. Then one day, she read something that stuck with her. Vague goals produce vague results. So she tried something different. Every single morning, before checking her phone, she sat down for 10 minutes and wrote in present tense, as if it was already happening, exactly what her client list looked like, what her monthly income was, what her morning routine felt like, even what kind of clients she turned down because she was too busy. At first, it felt a little silly, like writing fan fiction about her own life. But here's what happened. Within a few weeks, she started noticing things she'd never noticed before. A local business owner mentioning they needed marketing help, a former coworker posting about freelancing, a Facebook group for small agency owners. Were these opportunities suddenly appearing out of nowhere, or had they been there all along and her brain just hadn't been looking for them? Within 18 months, Sarah had left her corporate job and built that exact agency. Same skills, same experience, same city, same economy. The only thing that changed was the picture running in her head every single day. So here's the question I want you to actually think about, not just nod along to.
If your mind is already running some kind of program every single day, some loop of thoughts about money, work, and what's realistic for someone like you, shouldn't you be the one writing that program? Because right now, somebody's writing it. Either it's you or whatever random mix of childhood messages, social media scrolling, and worst-case scenario thinking happened to shape your brain by accident. Lesson 2. Desire isn't a feeling, it's a decision. This next one might be the most uncomfortable lesson in the whole book because it calls something out that almost all of us are guilty of. Most people say, "I want to be financially free," the exact same way they say, "I want to lose weight," or "I want to read more books." It's a passing wish, a nice thought, something you say out loud at a dinner party and then completely forget by the time dessert arrives. This book argues that true desire, the kind that actually moves the needle in your life, isn't a feeling at all, it's a decision. And a real decision has a very specific quality. You've burned the exit doors behind you. There's no maybe, no we'll see, no quiet escape hatch where you can back out without anyone noticing, including yourself. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're a guy named Marcus, working a decent, stable job in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good benefits, reasonable pay, nothing terrible about it. But Marcus has been interested in real estate investing for, honestly, he's lost count. 3 years? 4? He watches YouTube videos about it on his lunch break. He follows a dozen real estate accounts on Instagram. At dinner parties, when someone mentions buying a rental property, Marcus perks right up. "Oh yeah, I've actually been looking into that." But has he bought a single property? Has he even run the numbers on one specific deal? No. Why? Because interested costs absolutely nothing. You can be interested in something for the rest of your life and never lose a single dollar, never feel embarrassed, never risk a thing. Interest is comfortable. Interest is safe. Now here's the version of Marcus that the book is really talking about. Imagine Marcus sits down on a Sunday night, opens his banking app, and picks an actual number, say $30,000 saved for a down payment. He picks an actual deadline, 18 months from now, and then, this is the part that changes everything. He tells his wife out loud at dinner, "I've decided, in 18 months, we're buying our first rental property. Here's the number I need to hit." Notice what just happened. The moment those words left his mouth, the whole thing became real in a way it never was before. Now there's a number on a calendar. Now there's another person who's going to ask him, "Hey, how's the savings going?" And now backing out means having an actual conversation about why he didn't follow through, and that's uncomfortable in a way that quietly motivates him to keep going. Suddenly, Marcus isn't just interested anymore. He's making different choices at the grocery store. He's picking up an extra freelance project. He's actually calling a real estate agent instead of just watching videos about people who called real estate agents. Same guy, same city, same job, but everything downstream of that one decision starts moving differently. Here's the insight worth holding on to, and I want you to really let this one land. Wishing costs you nothing, which is exactly why it gets you nothing. If a goal doesn't cost you anything, no deadline, no accountability, no moment where you could actually fail, it's not a goal, it's entertainment. It's a story you tell about yourself that makes you feel ambitious without requiring you to be ambitious. So I'll ask you directly, is there something in your life right now that you're interested in, that you've been interested in for years? And what would it look like this week to turn that interest into an actual decision with a number and a date attached to it? Lesson 3. Fear of failure is just borrowed pain from the future. Okay, this is the emotional heart of the book, and honestly, it's the lesson that I think hits the hardest for most people, because it's not really about money at all. It's about something much more personal. So many of us carry around a fear of failure for something that hasn't even happened yet. We're suffering right now, today, for a future that may never even arrive. So you end up paying an emotional price for a disaster that's purely fictional. And that fear quietly, patiently talks you out of almost every bold move available to you. The job change, the business idea, the difficult conversation, the request for a raise, the leap that could change everything. Let me tell you about Diane, a high school teacher in Ohio. For 10 years, a full decade, Diane dreamed of writing a book. Not even a novel necessarily, just a book. Something about her experiences in the classroom, the kids she'd worked with, the lessons she'd learned the hard way. But every single year, the fear got a little louder. What if nobody reads it? What if I spend all this time and it's terrible? What if my coworkers see it and think I'm being arrogant, like I think I'm some kind of expert? What if I put myself out there and people just laugh?
10 years. That fear cost Diane an entire decade of silence, not because the fear was based on anything that actually happened, but because the imagined version of failure felt so real, so vivid, so embarrassing that it was easier to simply never start. Now here's the after. At 48 years old, Diane finally wrote that book. And here's the important part. The fear didn't disappear. She didn't wake up one day suddenly fearless. What happened was different. She got tired of imagining her own funeral, basically, and realizing that on her deathbed, the thing she'd regret wasn't, "I wrote a book that some people didn't like." It was, "I never even tried." The fear of regret finally became louder than the fear of failure. So she wrote it. And here's the twist. The book did not become some massive bestseller. It sold modestly. Some people loved it. A couple of reviews were lukewarm. But here's what it also did. It led to a podcast invitation. It led to a local speaking gig at a teacher's conference. It led to Diane feeling for the first time in years like someone with something to say, not just someone managing a classroom until retirement. Looking back, that fear she'd carried for 10 years, it hadn't protected her from anything. There was no disaster to avoid. The worst-case scenario she'd been so terrified of never even happened. The fear had just been sitting there, quietly stealing 10 years, protecting her from absolutely nothing. Does this sound familiar? That dream you've been meaning to get to eventually? The business idea, the creative project, the conversation you've been avoiding, the application you haven't sent. What is it actually costing you to keep waiting? Not in some abstract sense. I mean really, specifically, what does another year of eventually look like for you? Real-life application. All right, let's make all of this practical, because insight without action is just entertainment. Here are 3 things you can actually do this week based on everything we just talked about. Step 1. Write a 1-paragraph future you statement and read it out loud every morning. This week, sit down for just 10 minutes and write a short paragraph describing your life 1 year from now in present tense as if it's already true. Be specific, your income, your daily routine, how you feel when you wake up. Then read it out loud each morning, even if it feels a little awkward at first. Remember Sarah from Lesson 1. The goal isn't to magically attract anything. The goal is to train your brain to start noticing opportunities related to that vision, the same way it suddenly notices every car that's the same color as the one you're thinking about buying. Step 2, pick just one goal, attach a real number and a real date, and say it out loud to someone. This is your Marcus moment. Choose just one goal, savings target, side income, a fitness milestone, whatever matters most to you right now. Give it a specific number and a specific deadline written down somewhere you'll see it daily. Then tell one person, your spouse, a close friend, a sibling, out loud. That single conversation is what turns a private wish into a real decision, because now there's another human being who knows and who might just ask you about it later. Step 3. Identify your Diane fear and take the smallest possible action against it this week. Think of one thing you've been avoiding because of imagined failure: sending that email, making that call, posting that first piece of content, having that hard conversation. You don't need to do the whole thing this week. Just do the smallest possible version of it. Draft the email, even if you don't send it yet. Write the first paragraph, even if it's rough. Small action is the antidote to big fear because fear lives in the imagined future and action lives in the present. Closing. So here's Think and Grow Rich boiled down to 3 sentences. Your thoughts shape your reality far more than your current circumstances do. What you focus on daily quietly determines what you notice and pursue. Real desire isn't a feeling, it's a decision backed by a number, a deadline, and accountability to someone else. And the fear that's been holding you back is almost always smaller, quieter, and less real than the regret waiting for you on the other side of never trying. If today's summary made you think differently, you're in the right place. At Daily Audio Insights, we break down the world's most powerful books, so you get the wisdom without the weight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment telling me which lesson hit hardest, and I'll see you in the next one.